on the dead planet was harsh and cruel. Its heat burned the metal piles in the scrapyard. The air smelled like rust and oil. But under a broken cargo ship, in the shadows, a mother held her baby close. She wrapped the baby in a thin cloth and pressed her back against the metal wall. Her heart beat fast. Her breathing was quiet. She was afraid to make a sound. Even her baby, so small and weak, seemed to know silence meant survival. Her name was Zira. She was once proud, once part of a great alien people, but now she was nothing. Hunted, starving, and unwanted, she had run for days. Hiding from the sky drones and the bounty hunters, her baby, only weeks old, had stopped crying from hunger. Now she only whimpered, and even that was dangerous. Zira hadn't eaten in 2 days. She had no food, no water, no medicine. Her arms were tired, her legs sore. But she would not stop holding her baby. She would die before letting go. Then she heard its footsteps, slow, heavy, confident, not machines, not drones. It was someone walking. Zira pulled the baby tighter and slid deeper into the shadows. She didn't know who it was, but she knew one thing. If they saw her, it was over. The footsteps came closer. She held her breath, closer still, then silence. A voice, low and calm, broke the stillness. "I know you're there," it said. Zira froze. She wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. She looked down at her baby, who blinked weakly, too tired to cry. The voice came again. "I'm not here to hurt you." Then the figure stepped into view. It was a human, tall, wearing dusty armor and carrying a large pack on his back. His face was tired, maybe older than he looked. He had a scar down one cheek and kind but cautious eyes. Zira didn't trust him. She had seen what humans did to her kind. She pressed her back harder against the wall. Her hands shook. The man raised his hands slowly, showing they were empty. "Easy," he said. "I don't work for them." Zira didn't answer. She couldn't. Her throat was dry. Her fear too strong. The man took a slow step closer. Then he saw the baby. His eyes changed. He looked shocked. Then something else. Softness. "You've got a child," he said, more to himself than to her. Zira's lips trembled. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely there. "Don't turn." U.S. in. The man didn't answer right away. He knelt down, looked at the baby, hungry. He said quietly. Zira gave a tiny nod. The man reached into his pack and pulled out a small food packet and a water flask. He placed them gently on the ground and stepped back. Zira stared at the food. Was it a trick? Would he shoot her when she moved? But the baby whimpered again, and she had no choice. She reached for the packet with shaking hands, opened it, and fed her child. The baby sucked slowly. Zira cried silently. The man watched, then finally spoke. "You don't have to die out here," he said. "There's a safe place nearby. Hidden, only I know it." Zira looked up, eyes wide. "Why would you help us?" she asked. The man looked away. After a long pause, he answered. "I had a daughter once." He stood, picked up his pack, and turned to leave. Then he stopped, looked over his shoulder. "You're lucky," he said. "I still believe in second chances," and then he walked away. Zira sat frozen. Was he serious? Was this real? She looked at her baby, still eating slowly. She looked at the food in her hands, and she looked at the man walking away. Not running, not scared. Slowly, Zira stood. She held her baby close, and then she followed him into the unknown. Zira didn't sleep much that night. Even though the walls around her were solid and the door was sealed tight, her baby finally rested, warm for the first time in days. But Zira's eyes stayed open, watching the dark corners of the room. The shelter was quiet, too quiet, and it felt wrong to trust silence after so much running. The place wasn't fancy. Old metal walls, crates stacked in the corners, tools and wires hanging from rusted hooks. But there was warmth, a small heater hummed in the corner, and a pot of clean water steamed on a stove. To Zira, it felt like luxury. Jack hadn't said much. He brought them in through a hidden tunnel and led them down into an old mining station. He gave her a blanket, a cot, and food for the baby. Then he went to the other room, closed the door, and disappeared. Zira didn't know what to think. Why was a human helping her? Why was he kind when others were cruel? What did he want from her? She watched her baby sleep, the tiny chest rising and falling slowly. Zira reached out and touched the soft cheek. Brushing away a small flake of dust, she whispered something. In her native tongue, a prayer, maybe, or a promise. Then she looked toward the door Jack had gone through. The next morning, she stepped carefully into the other room. It was filled with strange things, holograms, broken drones, a half-built exosuit. Jack sat at a table, holding a small photo in one hand. He didn't hear her at first. She stood there, unsure. Until the floor creaked beneath her foot. He looked up slowly, eyes tired. "You sleep?" He asked. Zira gave a soft nod. "Your baby okay?" "She's better," Zira said, voice low. "Thank you." Jack didn't smile. He just turned the photo around and placed it on the table. Zira stepped closer, eyes on the image. It was a little human girl, smiling, missing a front tooth. Her hair was tied in 2 small knots. "She was mine," Jack said. Years ago, Zira didn't speak. She didn't need to. The pain in his voice was heavy and full of silence. "She got sick," Jack said. "Too fast, no time to reach help. No med drones near." He looked down. Fingers pressing the edge of the photo. "I buried her under the mountain tree." The one with red leaves. Zira felt something twist inside her. Pain, recognized pain. Loss knew the scent of another's grief. "I was a soldier once," Jack said, still not looking at her. "Fought your kind in the border wars." Zira's body went still. But Jack raised a hand. "Not proud of it," he said, "back then. They told us lies, told us you were monsters." He let out a tired breath. "But when my daughter died, no one came." He tapped his heart once, softly, no sides in. "Grief," he said, "only sorrow." Zira sat down across from him. She looked at the photo again. "Oh, she looks kind," she said. "She was," Jack whispered. They didn't speak for a while. The heater clicked softly in the other room. The baby made a sleepy noise. Zira stood, ready to go check, but Jack suddenly said, "I'm not helping you because you're special." Zira turned back, surprised. "I'm helping you," he said, "because I couldn't help her." Silence filled the room again. Zira's throat felt tight. She looked at him not as an enemy, not even as a human, but as a person who had known true loss. Then from the upper vent, a soft static sound crackled. Jack moved fast, turning a switch and pulling up a small holoscreen. A patrol ship was flying low near the mountains. "They're still searching," Jack muttered. "For me." "Zira asked for anything that doesn't belong," he replied. Zira swallowed hard. "I can leave," she said. "I won't bring trouble to you." Jack shook his head. "They'll find you in minutes," he said, "and they won't ask questions." He stood up, walked to a cabinet, and pulled out a device. "This scrambler can mask your signal, but it needs power." He looked at her. "If you want to protect your child, we'll need to move soon." Zira stepped forward. "I trust you," she said, voice trembling. Jack stared at her for a moment, then nodded once. "Then let's make sure your child lives to see a better day." Zira didn't mean to fall asleep. She had only closed her eyes for a moment. The baby rested in her arms, warm, safe, and breathing softly. Jack had said it was fine. He had set up a signal scrambler, activated heat shields, and told her to rest, so she did. For the first time in days, she slept. Then she heard boots, heavy ones, stomping on the ground above. More than one pair. Zira's eyes snapped open. She held her baby tighter and sat up in the corner of the room. Her chest rose and fell with fast, short breaths. She wasn't dreaming. They were here. Jack burst into the room, holding a pulse. "Rifle, wake up," he said sharply. They're scanning the area. Zira stood quickly, fear in her eyes. "How did they find us?" Jack checked the weapons charge. Must have picked up old footprints. Or caught heat signatures we didn't block. Zira looked at the door, then back at her child. "We can't fight them," she whispered. "We don't have to," Jack said. "We just need to buy time outside." The metal plates of the ground echoed with marching robotic voices called out in a strange tongue Zira knew well. "Survivor detected, search the tunnels. Use force if necessary." Zira grabbed Jack's arm. "Don't let them take her," she begged. "Not my baby." Jack looked into her eyes. Then he handed her a small metal keycard, storage shaft under the tool bench. He said, "Crawl space leads out to the canyon." Zira didn't move. "What about you?" she asked. "I'll hold them," Jack said. "Long enough for you to get away." Zira shook her head. "No, I won't leave you." Jack narrowed his eyes. "You have to," he said. "She's all that matters now." A loud thud shook the ceiling. They were close, one floor up, maybe less. Zira rushed to the bench and found the crawlspace cover. She pushed it aside. Revealing a narrow tunnel of darkness and metal, she hesitated only for a moment. Then kissed her baby's forehead and slipped inside. She turned back one last time. And looked at Jack. "I'll come back," she whispered. Jack nodded once. "Go," he said. Then turned toward the door, weapon raised. The metal door burst open with a loud crash. 2 armored soldiers stepped in. They weren't fully human, more machine than flesh. Eyes glowing red, weapons drawn. "Identify." One of them demanded. Jack raised his rifle and smiled. "You first," he said, and fired. The blast hit the first soldier in the chest, sending it flying back. Sparks flew. Alarms screamed. And the second soldier fired in return. Jack ducked and rolled behind cover. Firing again and again. He didn't need to win. He just needed time. Meanwhile, Zira crawled through the tunnel. The baby whimpered softly, but Zira whispered gentle words in her ear. "We're almost there," she said. "Hold on." She could hear the battle behind her, shots, explosions, shouting. Her heart ached to turn back. But her child came first, always. Finally, she reached the end. A grate covered the exit, and she pushed it open. The cool night air hit her face. She looked around an open canyon, stars above, silence, freedom. She crawled out, holding her baby close. She sat for a moment, breathing hard, then turned and looked back at the hidden exit. Smoke was rising in the distance. She bit her lip. He had stayed behind for her. Back inside the bunker, Jack's weapon ran dry. He threw it aside and grabbed a wrench, swinging it hard into a soldier's head. It sparked and fell. Another came in through the roof. Jack's arms bled. His face was bruised, but he didn't fall. One of the soldiers scanned the room. "No sign of target child." "It," said. Jack grinned through bloody teeth. "You're too late," he said. Then he hit the self-destruct on the power core and ran for cover. Outside, Zira saw a flash of light in the distance. Then silence. Her breath caught in her throat. "No," she whispered. But before she could panic, a voice came from behind her. "Took you long enough." She turned and saw Jack, limping, smoke-covered, holding his side. "You're alive," she gasped. "Barely," he said. "Next time, you run faster." Zira laughed and cried at the same time. She helped him sit beside her. The baby opened her eyes and reached a tiny hand toward Jack. He stared at the child, then gently touched her hand for a moment. Everything was quiet again, but they both knew this peace wouldn't last. The bounty hunters would return. More would come, but for now, they were alive, and together she couldn't leave him, so she came back with fire in her eyes. The night wind was cold in the canyon. Zira sat with her baby in her arms. She watched Jack lean against the rocks, bleeding from his side. He didn't complain. He just stared at the stars like they were answers he couldn't find. Zira tried to patch his wound with part of her robe, but the bleeding wouldn't stop. His breath came slow and sharp. "You need help?" she whispered. Jack gave a weak smile. "There's no one left to help," he said. "Not out here." Zira looked around. Dead silence filled the night. Not even a bird. The world was empty. Like them, she turned to him again. "I shouldn't have run." She said, "I told you to," Jack replied, "and I came back," she said. Louder now, because I wasn't going to lose someone else. Jack closed his eyes. His lips moved but made no sound. The baby stirred in Zira's arms, tiny eyes blinking in the starlight. Zira touched the child's cheek, then looked back at Jack. She stood up. "I'll find something," she said. "Like what?" Jack asked. Zira didn't answer. She wrapped her baby to her chest and stepped away into the canyon. She remembered passing a broken ship nearby. Maybe something inside. Wires, tools, med packs. Her feet moved fast over the stones. Her eyes scanned the dark. Then she saw it. A rusted cargo pod stuck halfway in the cliff. She climbed carefully, holding her child close. Each step was shaky, but her grip was strong. She reached the pod and kicked the door open. Inside, nothing at first, just dust and bones. Then there, near the corner, a medkit box with faded red stripes. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Old, but usable. She took what she could carry and turned back toward Jack. Then she heard the sound wings cutting the air. She froze. Overhead, 3 dark shapes moved against the stars. Small hunter drones, flying low, scanning. Zira ran. Faster than she thought possible. She reached Jack's side and dropped beside him. "They're coming," she whispered. Jack opened one eye and tried to sit up. "Leave me," he said again. "No," she snapped. "You don't get to give up." She worked fast, cleaning the wound. Applying the medicine, Jack winced but said nothing. Above them, a sharp screech echoed across the sky. "They'll see us," he said. "Then we make them." "Look somewhere else," Zira said, her voice cold. She picked up a flare from Jack's gear bag and looked around. "See that ridge?" She asked. Jack followed her finger. She handed him the baby. His eyes widened. "You trust me with her?" Zira nodded. "I trust you with my life," she said. Then she stood, lit the flare, and ran across the ridgeline. The red light burned bright. The drones noticed. All 3 turned and followed her. Jack held the baby close, watching as Zira disappeared behind the rocks. Gunfire echoed, metal clashing. A scream, then silence. His heart raced. He wanted to move, to help, but he had no strength left. Minutes passed, then footsteps. Zira appeared again, breathing hard, clothes torn. One arm bleeding, but she was alive, and the drones were gone. Jack smiled through blood and dirt. "You're insane," he said. "I know," she replied, falling beside him. He handed her the baby. She was quiet, he said, didn't even cry. Zira held her child tight and leaned back against the rock. Her body was shaking, her mind spinning, but they were all still alive. That was enough for now. "I used to think humans were cold," Zira whispered. Jack didn't answer. She looked at him. "But you're not," she said. "You care more than most of my own kind." Jack finally opened his eyes again. "I used to think aliens were enemies," he said, "but then one of them gave me a reason to live again." The baby reached up and touched both of them. Tiny, fingers brushing across Zira's chest. Then Jack's arm, a connection. A bond born not from blood, but from choice. They sat like that until morning. Until the first light of dawn touched the canyon walls. Zira turned to Jack and said softly, "We can't stay here." Jack nodded. "No," he said, "but I know a place." The sun crept over the sharp canyon walls. Its light was soft, golden, and calm. But Zira felt no peace, not with her baby burning up in her arms. They had survived the night, the drones were gone, the battle was over, but now the baby wouldn't open her eyes. She had stopped crying, and that scared Zira more than anything. Jack limped beside her, every step heavy and painful, but he didn't complain. He looked at the baby's face and frowned. "She's not okay," he said quietly. Zira hugged the baby tighter. "She's getting worse," she whispered. They kept walking. Deeper into the rocky lands, Jack led the way to an old cave entrance hidden behind thick vines. "This used to be a mining access," he said. Zira nodded, too tired to speak. They stepped inside, where cool air wrapped around them like a ghost. Far inside the cave was a rusted door, half buried in stone. Jack entered a code on a cracked keypad. The door opened with a groan, revealing a dark tunnel. Old lights flickered as they stepped in. The place had been forgotten by time, but it was real solid, hidden, and deep enough to be safe. Jack lit a small lamp and guided them to a room at the back. "This was a lab," he said, "years ago." Zira sat down carefully, rocking her baby. "She's so warm," she murmured. "Too warm." Jack opened old drawers, broke open storage crates. He found wires, dusty tools, cracked screens, but then he found it, a small medical pod. "Dented, but still powered. She needs to go in this," he said. "It'll scan her, maybe stabilize her." Zira helped place the baby inside the pod. The machine buzzed weakly, then lit up. A red warning blinked across the screen. Jack cursed under his breath. "What does it mean?" Zira asked quickly. "She's dehydrated, lungs weak, fever spiking," Jack said. "The pod can't run fully without fuel." Zira stood up, her voice sharp. "Then, where do we get it?" Jack rubbed his face. "There's a trader camp, too. Sectors south, beyond the dry river, they have fuel." "Yes," Jack said, "but they also work with bounty hunters." Zira didn't hesitate. "Then I'll go," she said. Jack looked up, shocked. "No way. They'll eat you alive." "I'm not asking," she said, her voice like steel. "She's my child." Jack grabbed her arm gently. "You don't even know the path. Then show me," she said. "And I'll walk it myself." He looked at her for a long moment, then slowly reached into his coat and pulled out a folded map. He pointed to the trail, twisted, broken, and long. "You'll need to move fast." "Ah," he said. "I can do fast," Zira replied. She wrapped herself in a thick cloak, covered her face. Jack gave her a tiny cum patch to wear in her ear. "I'll guide you when I can," he said, "and I'll stay with her here." Zira looked at her baby one last time. Eyes closed, chest rising slow. Zira kissed her forehead. "Don't give up," she whispered. "I'll be back." Then she turned and ran into the tunnel. The world outside was brutal, dusty winds, sharp rocks, blinding light, but Zira didn't care. She had a mission. She had no fear left. Jack sat beside the pod, one hand on the baby's tiny foot. He watched the screen flicker. He spoke softly into the cum. "She's strong," he told Zira. "Like you," Zira replied through crackling static. "I'll bring that fuel." Hours passed. Zira crossed cracked plains, climbed rocky hills, avoided sky patrols. She nearly slipped down a slope, but caught herself. She scraped her knees, bled from her palms, but she kept going. Finally, she saw the camp. Scrap walls, guard towers, smoke rising from the chimneys. It smelled like danger, but also like hope. She wiped her face, stood tall, and walked. Toward the gates, inside, creatures of many species stared at her. Some laughed, some whispered. Zira kept walking, heart pounding. She reached the trade tent. An old alien with glass eyes sat behind a dusty table. "I need med fuel," she said firmly. The trader raised a brow. "Credits." "I have nothing," she said, "but I'll work for it. Trade anything." The trader grinned. "Oh, you'll trade anything?" he asked, eyes crawling over her. Zira stood still, jaw tight. Then a voice spoke from behind. "She's with me." Zira turned. Jack stood at the entrance, leaning on a staff, breathing hard but alive. "What are you doing here?" She gasped. "Not letting you walk into a lion's mouth alone," he said. Then he threw a metal box on the table. "Old Terran tech," he said. "We're 3 times the fuel." The trader stared, then nodded. He tossed the fuel cell across the table. Zira caught it without a word. She and Jack turned and walked out together. They moved fast. The sun was setting again when they reached the cave. Zira ran to the pod and plugged in the fuel. The screen turned green. The pod hummed to life, and the baby finally moved. Her eyes opened, weak but alive. Zira dropped to her knees and cried. Jack sat beside her, silent, watching the tiny child breathe. They had made it, but both knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. She walked into the enemy's den with nothing but her voice. The baby was breathing again. Her skin was no longer burning. Her tiny fingers curled around Zira's robe, and her eyes blinked in slow, sleepy peace. Zira couldn't stop smiling. Tears rolled down her face. But they were warm this time. Jack leaned against the wall, tired, bleeding again from reopened wounds, but he didn't complain. He only whispered, "She's alive." The joy didn't last. A sharp ping echoed from Jack's comm unit. He checked the signal, a coded message, scrambled. "But readable, someone knows we used that fuel," he said quietly. Zira's smile faded. "Who?" Jack looked grim. "Bounty networks watch rare fuel trade, especially black market stuff." Zira's eyes narrowed. "They'll come." "Not just them," Jack said. "Someone worse, Rake Syndicate." The name struck cold in Zira's bones. She knew the Rake. They didn't capture for bounties. They captured to sell, to break, to erase. Zira looked down at her child. No, she wouldn't let them take her. Not ever. Jack grabbed his gear and staggered to his feet. "I know where they track signals from," he said. "A station." Zira tilted her head. "A base." Jack nodded. "Deep in the hills. Looks like a fortress, but inside." Filth. Zira looked at her baby. Then at Jack. "I'm going," she said. Jack blinked. "No, it's too dangerous. You can't even stand straight." She cut him off. "I'm not asking." Jack sighed. He handed her a small pulse blade and a dark cloak. "You'll need this," he said. "Will you stay with her?" Zira asked. Jack nodded once. "Until my last breath." Zira left before dawn. She moved fast across the valley. The hills in the distance were sharp and dark. Thunder rumbled above them. Rain came down in waves, but she didn't stop. By midday, she saw it, the Syndicate station, hidden in the cliffs. It looked like a mining tower, but the guards told the truth. She counted 7 on the wall. 2 drones circling, 1 giant cannon fixed to the roof, and the signal tower humming inside. Zira didn't have weapons. She didn't have strength. All she had was her voice and a heart full of fire. She walked straight to the gates. The guard shouted, "Halt, name, code." Zira pulled back her hood and raised her hands. "No code," she said, "but I have something more valuable." The guards looked confused. She stood tall despite the rain. "You're a fugitive," one said. "Maybe." She replied, "But I'm also a mother." A pause. One guard laughed. You think we care? Zero didn't blink. No, she said, but I think your boss does. They dragged her inside, tied her hands, pushed her down a hallway of flickering lights. The walls stank of oil and blood. Then she met him, the rake commander, thick body. Glowing eyes, half-metal jaw, he looked her up and down with disgust. Why walk into my home, alien? Zero stayed calm. I know you track signal trades, she said. I used rare fuel. He leaned forward, and now you offer yourself. I offer information, she said. The commander raised an eyebrow. Go on. Zero took a deep breath. There's a human with me, she said. The commander growled. We don't want humans. Zero smiled. This one's different. She leaned forward, eyes sharp. He fixed a pre-war dreadnought. The commander's expression froze. She continued. He knows how to activate hidden bunkers, sealed weapons, forbidden tech. Her voice was combat, full of poison. He's out there now, unprotected. The commander stood up. You'll lead us to him. I will, Zero said. But I want a promise, the commander laughed. You're in chains. Zero stepped closer. I want my child safe. The commander looked amused. Fine, he said. Bring us to the human. They moved fast. 3 armored skiffs, 6 soldiers. And the commander himself. Zero sat in silence, hands free now, the blade hidden in her boot. As they neared the canyon, her heartbeat slowed. She spoke into the small, hidden cum in her ear. Jack, she whispered. They're coming, back in the cave. Jack rose to his feet. He kissed the baby's head, then placed her gently in a warm crate beneath rock cover. He picked up the old rifle, loaded it, and whispered, Let's finish this. As the syndicate skiffs rolled in, Jack stepped out from the shadows. Hello again, he said. Zero smiled from the lead vehicle. He saw it in her eyes, a signal. She ducked, Jack fired. The canyon lit up. Explosions, smoke, screams. Zero kicked one soldier, took his gun, and ran to Jack's side. Together they fought, back to back, no fear. When the smoke cleared, only 2 stood, Zero and Jack. Tired, bloody, but alive. And the child, still safe, still breathing. Zero looked at Jack. You believed in me, she said. Jack looked back, and you made them believe I was worth something. The canyon was silent again. Ash drifted through the air like slow snow. Broken weapons lay scattered among burning wrecks. Zero stood beside Jack, her clothes torn, her arms scratched, her heart pounding, but her baby was safe. That was all that mattered. Jack leaned on his rifle, breathing heavy. His side was bleeding again, but he looked calm, as if some part of him had found peace. Zero rushed to the cave entrance. She knelt beside the crate where the baby lay wrapped in warm fabric. Tiny breaths moved her chest up and down. Zero touched her face gently. Sweet one, she whispered. I'm here. The baby stirred. Then slowly her eyes opened. Zero froze, staring into them. They weren't the same color as before, no longer pale gray. Now they glowed faintly blue and gold. Like twin suns rising, Zero gasped. Jack stepped closer and saw it too. What is that? He asked. Zero didn't answer right away. Her hands trembled as she held her child closer. Then she whispered something Jack couldn't understand, an ancient word in her language. Jack waited. Zero looked at him with wet eyes. She's not normal, Zero said, voice shaking. She's a sparkborn. Jack tilted his head. What's that mean? Zero stood slowly, her child in her arms. It's a rare bloodline, she said. One born once in 10,000. Their energy can awaken machines, heal planets, or even stop war. Jack raised an eyebrow. That's a lot for someone who still needs a blanket. Zero smiled softly. She doesn't know what she is yet. She said, but one day the galaxy will. A breeze passed through the canyon. The fire was dying. The Rake Syndicate was gone at least for now, but new questions had taken their place. If they find out what she is. Jack started, Zira nodded. They'll come in armies. They couldn't stay here. Not anymore. Zero looked at the broken skiffs the Syndicate had left behind. One of them still hummed, faintly damaged but repairable. Jack limped over, popped, opened the panel, and smiled. Still got a working core, he said. Zero stepped beside him. We can go far, she said. We'll have to, Jack replied as night fell. They loaded the supplies onto the skiff. Zero gently placed her child into a soft bed of cloth and wrapped her close. The glow in the baby's eyes had faded for now, but Zira could still feel the energy inside her, like something waiting to wake. Jack powered up the skiff, and the engine growled to life. Zira sat beside him, silent at first. Then she looked at him and said, You could have walked away. Jack didn't look at her. He stared at the horizon as the skiff began to move. I did, he said, a long time ago. But when I saw you hiding under that junk pile, I remembered. Remembered what? Zira asked gently. Jack's voice lowered, that there's still something worth saving in this broken galaxy. They traveled for hours, through valleys, over sandstorms. Under star-filled skies, Zira sang softly to her baby. A lullaby from her people, something older than war. Jack listened without speaking. But he didn't need to speak. The way he looked at the child said everything. When morning came, the skiff reached a high ridge from there. They could see the next Sistema field of ancient towers, ruined cities and forests untouched by fire. Zero leaned forward, eyes full of quiet hope. Do you think we'll be safe there? Jack looked at her, then at the baby. No, he said honestly, but maybe safe enough to keep moving. Zira smiled. That's all we need. The skiff rolled forward. Leaving the blood-soaked past behind in Zira's arms, the baby gave a tiny yawn and curled into sleep again. Her hand glowed faintly for just a second, barely visible like a heartbeat of starlight. Jack didn't notice, but Zira did, and she knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere out there, people would come, some to protect, some to destroy. But they would face it together, because one human believed in her, and one mother never gave up, and together they were no longer alone. They were a family now, a mother, a child, and a human with fire still in his heart.